All right. I believe we've got some sound. Yes, we do. I'm on right now. It is 1 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Hello, everybody. My name is Brother Francis E. Revels-Bey, and I'm the host here for Clear Blue Radiance here on the Resonant Essentials YouTube channel. Today is Thursday, December the 7th, 2023, and my particular topic today is if your children could be a celebrity like Beyonce, MJ, the late MJ, the late Prince, or the current and present Lady Gaga, who would they be? In other words, who would they select? I say encourage them to be themselves. Now, there's a lot of competition, right? Now, as I get into this, wanting to strive to help a lot of people understand this, I have to take a look at my own life too. I'm born in the 50s, early 1950s. Didn't have social media then. Growing up, we had Jet Magazine, Ebony Magazine, Amsterdam News, New York Daily News, the New York Post, Long Island Journal. We had that. We had those things to contend with. And every Sunday, if we could afford it, the New York Times, Newsweek magazine, New Yorker magazine. So that was our media take. Those are the things that we saw that we may or may have desired to be. If it wasn't that, it was sports. We had certain celebrity athletes that we all wanted to become like. The boys wanted to be this, the girls wanted to be that. And now, look, you got even more so people that are involved in sports all over the world. But this topic is talking about part of this is being fascinated and fixed on wanting to be someone else other than yourself. And sometimes because where children may grow up, and we have to remember we were there too. When we were growing up, where were we at? I remember since I was a child of the early 50s, summertime, either you went south to visit your cousins, or maybe you had cousins in the city because I lived on Long Island, New York, or you just hung out. You went to the local park. We had Kennedy Park to go to, Campbell Park to go to. I never went to Campbell Park. That was kind of rough park for me. And I lived closer to that park. Used to go to Kennedy Park. Why? To play table tennis, basketball, shoot pool, anything, just to be out of the house. And you had a special card. And you had that show that little ID card with your name and your address and your phone number, and you can get a basketball. You can get some baseball. You can get some mitts and bats. But yeah, sometimes I was the latchkey kid. I had an older brother. I still do have an older brother. But our parents ran a family business, and they didn't run the family business from home. They had a location, quote, quote, downtown in Hempstead, or on the hill, as we called it, another location, in which to do their family business, a radio and TV business. So I had a key, just like my brother had a key. We got out of grade school, go straight home, let yourself in the house. If you were fortunate, you didn't get in any trouble. I remember we had a mean neighbor behind us, this couple. I don't know where they were, never really saw their face, but a lot of the children's balls would wind up in their yard. Now, we were a little haphazard. We just, in our backyard, had these very high hedges. And maybe there was a fence there. I don't remember if there was a fence there, but I know that sometimes we're playing kickball, we're playing everything else, and the ball would go up, boom, and land in their backyard. Now we kind of knew our house was maybe 8 houses from one corner, so when we went down, traveling south down our block, and then making a left turn to travel east and then go over to the next block and then count 8 houses in. Well, usually that couple never answered the door. I don't think they had any children. If they did, they were probably grown adults. And they weren't easy adults to deal with. In fact, One time I misplaced my key. And what it was, the key was at home. Usually I wore the key on a shoestring around my neck, left the key at home. So here I was, my chubby self, running home, realized I couldn't get in. But there was always one thing we did do. And our parents would say, leave our bedroom window unlocked. Why? Because if something happened like this, we could up that bedroom window, from a little ladder, and go inside, let ourselves inside if we can get through the window without hurting ourselves. Now we're inside the house. I remember one particular day, that woman that lived behind our house, she thought I was breaking into the house. But I don't believe she thought I was breaking into the house, because there's a part within the hedges that you can clearly see who's going and coming in the backyard. I think she just wanted to give me a hard way to go. So she called the cops, local cops. And they showed up. The only thing that she didn't realize was my mom and dad owned a radio and TV place called Revels Radio, TV, and Repair. Lab technician, that was the term my dad used, which means he fixed things. He'd not only fix TVs, radios, toasters, what else? He almost could fix a refrigerator, but he didn't do that. But he mainly fixed car radios. He also fixed the car radios for the local Hempstead Police Department. So sometimes they bring their cars in front of my dad's shop, and he'd be out there fixing the wires and the PA system, walkie-talkie system that they used. He fixed stuff for churches, microphones, and for clubs and speakers. So this lady had no idea when she called the cop on me that when the cop showed up and I'm already in the house, my little chubby self, going through the bedroom of my brother and I, and opened the door, the cop knew me by first name. And I kind of recognized who this particular police officer was. And he would say, yeah, someone reported someone breaking in the house. And I had to explain, here's my key. I left it home. And I didn't realize I didn't have it on me to go through the side door. So I had to come through the back, through the window. So, but these were kind of things as life stories and experiences that all of us may have had experienced at some time. I had many cousins who lived in St. Albans and Hollis, Queens, New York, which is on Long Island, by the way. Long Island is shaped like a fish. So I had Nassau County and Suffolk County, and then you had the beginning of the five boroughs of New York City, Queens and Brooklyn. Then, of course, Manhattan. You go further, you got the Bronx, and you go the other way, you got Staten Island, which was all a part of that. Where anyway, I had cousins, they were latchkey kids all the time. Their parents ran their own businesses too. Uncles ran gas stations. Aunts had beauty salons. What the kids had to do if they didn't go to the beauty salon or go to the gas station to help out the parent, or if I didn't go to my mom and dad's radio and TV spot, hey, you had to let yourself in. And back in those days, you had some food and some fruit, but you ate TV dinners. Those things in the tinfoil pans, and you stick them in the oven. We learned how to work the oven, stick them in the oven. You had a little bite to eat before they came home. But these are the things that we did during the summer. Go outside and play all day, riding your bike all over the neighborhood. But during the fall, if you didn't get your homework done, you couldn't go outside as a child. And by the way, hey there, Mott, Mayat. Sometimes you had to stay with a friend's family. And my parents had that worked out. Or I stayed at an aunt's house not too far. Why? Because they didn't want to stay in at home. And they needed an adult to oversee what we were doing. But we didn't have social media. We just had TV set with five major channels. Channel 2, Channel 4, Channel 5, Channel 7, Channel 9, and then we had public station Channel 13, and after that, 21. So we had what? Seven stations. We didn't know anything about all those other stations that were also there, but we had seven stations. And back in the 40s and the 50s, 47 is when TV kind of hit. 47 to 52 to 57, hey, every program went off by midnight and everything came on at 6 a.m. So, hey, we didn't have social media. We didn't have the internet. We had encyclopedia sets from A to Z, and that's how you did your studies. Everybody had them. Or you go to the library, or you're fortunate to have a tutorer. We didn't have all of those shows to watch or to mimic. We only had the Ed Sullivan show to watch to see the celebrities come on. So what were we gravitating to as children? Or what did our parents have us gravitate? If we were fortunate, and I say this, if we were fortunate to come from good homes, you were exposed to everything outside your home that was good. If you were fortunate to be in a family that could put you in all those different things, from sports to Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, cadets, uh, local marching bands, performing arts schools, if you were fortunate. Some of our friends didn't have that. They just had every day what they were doing. And hopefully they may have lived in neighborhoods that were somewhat positive. Some weren't. Some didn't. So, but they too gravitated toward being some type of celebrity. Every child had a dream. I remember growing up, I wanted to be like Jim Brown, not realizing Jim Brown wasn't that much older than me and lived relatively close to me, but I didn't know that. I wanted to be a R&B star. Some of them passed through where I lived. My brother, he was able to stick it out, go into service, come back out, and was able to latch on to something very good, and he became a jazz drummer. I wouldn't say that I didn't become anything. I just didn't see anything yet. So we were always gravitating toward wanting to be something that we weren't, though, or that we could. And as long as we had good role models in acting, theater, and film and music of all kinds, we had a chance to shoot for something. We had our Beyonces and MJs. Hey there, Jackie. We had we had our princes of the day, Prince Nelson's back then. We had a lot of things that we could look at, but it wasn't as broad as it started in the 80s. It wasn't as broad as it is now. Now, in the last 20 years, parents have to put those little things on their computers so that the child is not watching porn and all these other things they're not supposed to see. You got cell phones, which are operating like computers now, so it's pretty much hard to control that as well. Everyone being fixated and fascinated with something beyond themselves. Everyone was seeking fame and fortune. Everybody. You might have been, again, fortunate to be born into a family of musicians, gospel singers. Well, that's all you heard, that's all you saw. You may have been born into a family where someone became a major actor or actress or R&B singer. You were kind of close to it. You can kind of see it. Maybe your parents had connections, but not every parent did. Not every child got a chance to grow beyond the illusion of celebrity status. Some, of course, made it out, in the hip hop scenes, Run DMC. They came from a fairly good family. They didn't come from a family of hard knocks. They came from Jamaica estates in Queens, New York. That was considered the middle class of African American and Moorish people. Pretty good stock of people living there: school teachers, doctors, lawyers, chefs, people into theater work, grew up in those areas. Further out on Long Island, you had in the local suburbs, you had the Flavor Flavs and the Chuck D's and De La Soul groups. All of these, all the way back out there then, had them there. And guess what? Around them were rough neighborhoods, but they grew up in good households. They didn't grow up in the lower income households. They were in the middle income, going toward upper income. They were able to go to good colleges and universities. They didn't live really a rough life. They didn't live like a rough life like a Jay-Z out of the Marcy Apartments in Brooklyn, New York, or Biggie, Notorious B.I.G., in the area that he grew up in, off of Nostrand, some over there. He grew up in a rough area. Mike Tyson grew up in a rough area of Brooklyn. Not everybody had a celebrity neighborhood to be a part of, but people were fascinated by those who had big names and lights, but not everybody made it. So, every child, and perhaps including yourselves as an adult now, if you think back to your childhood, you may have wanted to become a celebrity, an entertainer, a mega sports figure. Or not everybody wanted to go in that way. Many people wanted to become engineers, but we didn't know any popular engineers. Many people wanted to become doctors, but we didn't know any popular doctors. We didn't know of their status then. Lawyers, we didn't know of their status then. Some people were very visible, like the Sidney Poitiers, Maya Angelou's. They were very, very visible. We could see them, but not everybody. Not everybody had the level of support to be able to be catapulted in those arenas. So most of the time you had to find your way. You had to get a regular job. And some people said, okay, if I'm in Long Island, I got to move into New York City so I can meet some people. I knew about the Harlem Renaissance. Can I live in Harlem and get something? Or people would say I would work their way out to Los Angeles to live around Hollywood and maybe make a start there. So, my main reason for bringing up this particular topic today is to remind us not to become fascinated over what you do not have or fascinated over the lack of celebrity status. Some people become well known in their communities. I'm going to bring in some other elements. It didn't happen in my household, but I had some friends who had adults who were running numbers, as they call it. And in the state of New York, they didn't have a lottery. They didn't have the New York lottery. But it became the state authorities going right down to the police department, detectives, they realized, hey, these people within their communities are dealing with horses and numbers and making money on the side and they're gambling. We're going to find a way to get that money into the state. And therefore, I think it was 1963, the New York State Lottery began, hoping people would funnel their money there. Or off track betting, better known as OTB. You go into a store and you see the TVs and it's fixated on Belmont Racetrack and all these other racetracks up and down the East Coast, and now you can bet. After that, you had casinos. So sometimes people were teaching their children to become some of these things that they may not have a chance and opportunity to actually step into those shoes. But here's the upside. We had to teach the children, the grandchildren, your neighbors, whoever, to raise their self-esteem. Self-esteem is your value. How do you value yourself? Are you comparing yourself to a celebrity? Or are you comparing yourself to a higher source? Or are you comparing yourself just to yourself? Now, you've heard that phrase, trying to keep up with the Joneses, trying to keep with people who got more than you have. Well, sooner or later, you go within. You discover your self worth. What are you worth? What are you doing with that value of yourself? What is considered your worth? You got talents, you got skills. Maybe you can write, maybe you can sing, maybe you can dance, maybe you can figure out mathematical problems better than anybody else. You had that science oriented mind better than anybody else. You had a medicinal mind better than anybody else, a shamanic mind. You start to expand. And not only did you discover the talents and skills or gifts that you had, but you were able to successfully study them and apply them and reap the benefits from them. So we find ourselves exposing the children to good role models. And better yet, you become a good role model because every child needs to see some kind of role model around them. It may not be mom and dad, could be Uncle Jeff, Aunt Esther, could be a cousin Marshall, it could be anybody. But they need to see the physical with their own eyes. They need to be able to interact heart to heart, ask those all important questions to see how to move from point A to B. Some people didn't fare well in education, but had the hustle. Some people were afraid of the hustle, but smart in the classroom, able to get those grades up and go off to Yale and go off to Harvard and go to Princeton and go to Rutgers, go to Morehouse, go to Spelman, just keep going to MIT. Go where the mind can be fertilized with more ideas, where the mind can be fertilized with more ideas, therefore making an impact on their immediate surroundings. So we might have to look at what are we exposing the children of today to? Well, many of them, as we know, they're coming in this world, birthing into this world to the parents and siblings and relatives that they found in the soul essence, and together somehow they're going to make a better world or make a better environment. But how do they get there? How can a child, young adult, teenager, an adult period, somehow have this success laid out before them? Well, it's all about self discovery. Parents, siblings, still today discovering themselves. In some respect, not only seeking oneself, but seeking really deep. We're constantly and consciously and unconsciously planting seeds in our own minds and hoping that somewhere down the line, someone can benefit from it. In the old Christian mystical schools, prayer, you hear celebrities say it. They say it like, they're the ones that created the phrases. But we've all heard Prayer changes things. Intent changes things. Affirmative prayer changes things. The science of candle magic, candle burning, changes things. The workability of Reiki and crystal healing changes things. But it changes the external only when the internal man, woman, boy, or girl has been internalizing, trying to, and hopefully developing a new you. Because in these next couple of years, let's say 20 years or so, there's going to be some significant changes. And we have to discover what is that significant change. What is it that we need to do to create this change so that we could live the change, we can experience the change. You don't want to make these changes and then have no place to deposit them. So we might ask ourselves, what are we fixated on? What are we fascinated with? And do we need that much fixation and fascination? We have to turn it back into ourselves. Get in the eyes, get in the ears, get through the pores, nostrils, mouth, you name it, to be have all these things embedded in our lives. What is it that we need to do? Well, I know for sure it's called meditation. Meditation is the act of finding or discovering one center of being. So, who is in the center? Who is being that in the center within your life, within your brain, throughout your body? We often give our power away, but we're giving our power back to ourselves when we say, I pray to my ancestors, I pray to my spirit guides or totem animal spirit guides, but I'm praying to something greater than myself. Well, in the next 7 to 10 years, we're finally going to realize who that is that we're striving to become like. That being within ourselves, and it's within ourselves. It came with us on the planet when we were born in this lifetime. And this higher self is constantly traveling with you from lifetime to moment to moment. Whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, your higher self always shows up. Your higher self can tell you in a whispering voice to move on. Why? Because you have this innate ability to discover and rediscover who you are. You have this unique ability to decree it into the world, affirm it into the world. Use an affirmative prayer to flip the switch in your mind so you can go into the all knowing, the all seeing, the all being, the all having. I say the key is meditation. Prayer is its partner, its dance partner, and you need both. So through prayer and meditation, you can make something happen. You can meditate on the intent of a prayer as well as the intent of a meditation. But it's totally left up to you. When I say you, that means us. That means in the next 10 years, we have an opportunity to change it all around, to begin to demonstrate it in our walk in life. As long as we have this walk, as long as we have life and breath and activity within the body, we should take advantage of the opportunities and impact the world that we live in. Impact the world that we live in. We want to be in a position where we are anointed with grace. And why do I say that? Because the word grace means ease. We don't need to be in a world where we're consciously and constantly and unconstantly depleting our values, our energetic values. We don't need to do that. We need to Be like the farmer, cultivate the land, plant the seed as deep as we can go, and water it every day or every other day. Water it with good intentions, good desires, good affirmations, good affirmative prayers, good meditations, seeing ourselves at a higher height. And it can be done through meditation on sound, crystal bowls, gongs, tuning forks, didgeridoos. You can hear it on bongos and kungas, marimbas, xylophones or xylophones, vibraphones, guitar, all these instruments, all these brass instruments. But guess what? All these things mimic who we are. We are traveling in the world in our sleep, and we can become lucid that we're having a dream while the body's asleep. But we can change it in the laboratory of the mind, within the brain, within the body, within our environment. So that's my message for today. If your children could be a celebrity, like a Beyonce, the late MJ, the late Prince, current like Lady Gaga, who would they become? Who would they be? Or better yet, encourage them to be themselves. Well, everybody, I'm going to sign off. I have some short meditation clips and things to put together for some students here out here in Albuquerque, and I got to get ready for tonight. Tonight is the first Thursday workshop, and we're going to be talking about the higher self. So I'm going to release the keys as to who the higher self is, so that we get to know this. And my new book talks about that on a very deep level, 7 different ways in which to activate it, connect and communicate with it. But I want to thank those who are tuned in today that are listening. Well, you're the fire too. I have to find a way not to stay up so late and get the proper rest for myself so I can churn out this information effortlessly. Well, until next time, remember that divine grace is a blessing as we're alive and well in the age of remembrance. Thank you for Arit Mayat. I have to get you to tell me exactly how to pronounce that. Say thank you to Jackie Fillmore, Antoine, for joining me, and anybody else who may have been on here listening today. Thank you so much for your time. I should be back here next week, which will put us on the 14th, and I'll be here. I know at some point I got to get in touch with Mr. Lloyd Strayhorn. He's looking to probably have me close the year out and maybe start the year. So I got to work on my programs too, such as a 13-week numerology course. I got to get that together. Well, anyway, thank you for being supportive, subscribing to Resident Essentials channel here as well as my channel on YouTube. I'll be getting back there, laying out some treats and gems for people to have the wisdom that they need. Thank you so much for your time. Have a pleasant rest of your day or afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Have a great day. Let it be a magical, awesome day. And I will see you next time. Uh, Before I leave, it says new moon in Sagittarius on 12/12 portal. Yeah, that's another thing I mentioned in the book too. Something interesting about these portals, the gateways, in connection to the higher self and who the higher self truly is. Thank you for your time. I'm going to shut down all these beaming lights on myself, let some natural sunlight hit me, and then get ready for tonight. See you all from the East Coast, I think about 8 p.m. your time, 6 p.m. my time. Anyway, have a great rest of your day. Thanks for following here. Click the like button if you haven't already. Place your comments. Share this out if you want to, if you can, or give the link for others to come and watch it. Thank you for your time again, and I'll see you next week. Take care.